little research took us to a survey that was done to the north. A friend of mine named Roger Meyer had done a survey in that area, and certainly he shows section 31 and 32. Here he shows the northeast corner of section 6, which is also the northwest corner of our section 5. Now here he is showing a difference between the southwest corner of section 32 and the northwest corner of section 5, as we discussed in the government plat just a little bit ago. How do I find those points? These lines aren't marked out on the ground. Nobody goes out and paints them. And yes, there's a fence here, but do I really have to measure from the end of that fence? There is a way we can find much of this information, and one of the documents that Roger created when he did this survey is he created a monument record. This is a document that's required in Illinois, has been required since the early 80s, for the surveyor to put on file a record of a section corner or quarter corner or other land corner on the section lines. Anytime they reestablish it, some will go so far as to say anytime you use it, but there are some practical limits to that. If I were looking for this particular section corner of section 31, I would simply go to the turn in the public road here and the private drive, and I could find this particular point. In fact, this indicates that he set a capped rod, that is a rod with his aluminum or plastic cap that bears his registration number, at the southeast corner of section 31 at this location. These measurements are what we call accessory ties. The accessories are permanent objects that can be searched for and discovered by other surveyors, and then once you find those, if the capped rod is not readily obvious, you can simply swing an arc, in this case of 5428, and intersect that with an arc of 1952 from this object and another arc of 7225 from this object, and hopefully they intersect at the same spot, and if you dig there, you may find it. If it's not there, then this enables a competent surveyor, if enough of the accessories still survive, to restore a missing point. This is not the only monument record that Roger filed. Notice that there are 3 monuments listed here that all occur in the southeast quarter of section 31, as you can see on the schematic at the top of the sheet. So if I look at section 6, which is also in the same vicinity, you see here is his tie to the very same point we just saw, the southeast corner of section 31. Here is also the distance between those two. He has accessories shown here. In fact, these are very likely some of the same accessories used for tying out this point. He also has measurements to the public road and the center line of the private gravel drive. Once we're in that area, then we can start to see where these are, pull the measurements, find the point, off we go. All right, so that helped us find corners up here. There were several other places we searched for and found corners or had to reset corners. If I recall correctly, I had to reset corners at the northeast corner of this section, the north quarter corner, the east quarter corner, the west quarter corner, based on our survey. So far, this covers the proposal, the planning, the research stage, and now reconnaissance. For control in our waterfall model of the surveying process, we were fortunate to have GPS equipment available to us, and GPS significantly streamlined the survey process, and we selected control for our own convenience. In fact, since this was a boundary job, and we did not need elevation control, we simply needed to establish a coordinate system that became, I guess you could say, a datum for the remainder of the survey. We pick a point that we set very close to the southwest corner of the section and selected a reasonable direction for north to match other surveys, and then worked from assumed coordinates. Our data collection mode was GPS. We spent much more time searching for monuments than actually measuring monuments and setting monuments. So once we had our data collection done, then there was boundary and geometry work to be accomplished. Our client wanted to, on the west side of this tract, which we needed to restore as the west 118 rod of the south half of the southwest quarter, we wanted to establish 4 large lots buildable for single-family residences, and then leave a 60-foot lane to provide access to the remainder of this 59-acre tract for farming purposes. You can see how this lays out on the aerial photo, and these aren't necessarily final dimensions, but they were approximate dimensions that we proposed to the landowner, and then from there final decisions were made that allowed us to proceed with our plat. Rather than showing the entire section, we are simply showing in our plat the southwest quarter of Section 5. This is the north line of the southwest quarter, Section 5, Township 18 North, Range 14 West. You can see how we have this monumented. The white circles indicate places where we found monuments. So we found the southwest corner. We found the southeast corner of this quarter section, but we set everything else. We did not set the northeast corner because the direction of this east line and the direction of the north line are effectively fixed by points on the opposite sides of the section. That is, by the north quarter corner for the north-south line and for the east quarter corner for the east-west line. Well, you can see the dimensions listed here, and you can see we've created 2 3-acre tracts and a 5-acre tract. Here's our 60-foot lane, and here you can see a fence that follows our south quarter line. This was a very, very old fence, and a previous surveyor had used it as evidence to prove the location of the south quarter line. Here on these 3 tracts, you can see corners that fall inside the tracts, but on the side lines. WC here stands for witness corner, and these witness corners are set 20 feet away from the points on the section line. You may recall that sometimes our section line falls out in the road. There is a township road running north and south along the west line of our section. The section line, in our case, fell out in the oil and chip road. Because these oil and chip roads get maintained by township road commissioner staff, sometimes they get scarified, as we say, or tilled up and recompacted and resurfaced. Well, then sometimes the points out there in the road can be damaged. So, in order to preserve those positions, we will often set witness corners on the side lines at a known distance away from the line. Why? If this corner in the road gets torn out, well, then this one back here helps preserve not only the direction of the line, but evidence that the corner that really counts was 20 feet away. So this is, I guess you could say, insurance against the inevitable damage to a point that falls in a township road. One of the things that we have to do in addition to creating the plat is create the legal descriptions. The plat in and of itself, in this case, does not establish the description of these particular tracts. By the ordinances in place at this time in Champaign County, this subdivision of land can be done without going through the process normally required for some other type of residential subdivision. This type of division of land does not create lots in a subdivision. It is creating 4 unique but adjoining tracts. Therefore, we had to create legal description for these 4 tracts. Tract 1, 2, and 3 all commence at an iron rod in the southwest corner of the southwest quarter of the section. They all commence down here, the southwest corner of the section. If that's a point of commencement, then the legal description will run up this west line to a point of beginning on each tract. We run north along the west line 60 feet to an iron rod set at the point of beginning, and then we continue along that west line to another iron rod set, and then we go east a certain distance, in this case 381.42, then south 342.62, parallel to the west line, and then back to the point of beginning in the parcel containing 3 acres. Well, Tract 2 is going to read very similar to it, but it's going to adjoin Tract 1. Likewise, Tract 3 will adjoin Tract 2, and it will contain 5 acres. We proceeded up the line for Tract 1 from the point of commencement here at the southwest corner of the section, then further up the line to this point, and then east along the north line of Tract 1, thence south along the east line, and thence west along the south line of Tract 1, back to the point of beginning for that tract. In this case, we have a point of beginning for Tract 1 that is here. The point of beginning for Tract 2 is here. The point of beginning for Tract 3 is here. All 3 of those lots share the same point of commencement. Tract 4 has to be whatever is left from the original tract. You see, our original description was the west 118 rods of the south half of the southwest quarter of Section 5, Township 18 north, Range 14 west of the second principal meridian. Right up to that point, that is the original description that was written back in the 1800s. That does not change. It might be tempting to say, well, the west 118 rods, we can put that in common terms. We avoid doing that because we want there to be as much continuity of title as is possible. Unless there is a very, very compelling reason, we don't rewrite the original legal description. If we do, because of a combination of tracts that makes it very, very confusing, or poorly written legal descriptions, we will often say, this is the original legal description, which is more clearly stated with a new description. But we don't get rid of the old description. So what we're simply saying, it's the original description except tracts 1, 2, and 3, which are described as follows. And you can see that the Tract 1, Tract 2, and Tract 3 descriptions that you saw directly above here are included. Now you might ask, why do I have to include these here when they were listed above? Well, consider that one of these days, Tract 4 will probably change hands. And the owner of Tract 4 won't have Tracts 1, 2, or 3. So this legal description for Tract 4 will show up on a document by itself without the stuff that is listed above it, as you see here. The descriptions that you see above it for Tracts 1, 2, and 3 are the exceptions. That is, the portions that are taken out of the original tract of 118 rods. For clarity, we have to put it in here. We have to consider that our legal descriptions are going to be used over and over again for perhaps hundreds and hundreds of years. Therefore, they have to be very, very clear. The relationship between legal description and plat, I think, is very clear when you can trace the legal description on the plat itself. And hopefully, this particular example has shed some light on that for you.